If you're making around $140,000 a year right now, there's a very uncomfortable truth most people don't want to talk about. By the standards America used to measure poverty, you wouldn't be considered comfortable at all. Not struggling, not lower middle class, but poor. And I know exactly what you're thinking right now. That sounds insane. That sounds like clickbait. That sounds like something designed to get attention. So before you close this video, give me a few minutes. Because once you see the logic behind this, you're going to realize why so many people feel like they're doing everything right and still falling behind. Why you might be earning more than your parents ever did, working harder than they ever did, yet somehow feeling more stressed, more fragile, and more stuck. And most importantly, I'm going to show you what actually matters in a system that quietly drains people who play by the old rule. Let's start with where this idea even came from. Recently, a breakdown went viral claiming that the real poverty line in America isn't what the government tells you. It's not around $30,000 a year. It's closer to $140,000. At first glance, that sounds ridiculous. But here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. The math wasn't made up. It used the government's own original formula. The same logic, the same structure, just updated with today's reality instead of yesterday's assumptions. And when you do that, when you apply the old rules to the modern economy, the result is shocking. Millions of people who believe they're solidly middle class are actually living at a standard that would have qualified as poverty decades ago. Now, before we go any further, let me be crystal clear. This is not an argument that everyone needs $140,000 to live a good life. It's not saying people below that number are doomed. It's not saying you can't be happy or successful without it. What it is saying is that the system we use to measure financial reality is completely outdated. And because it's outdated, it makes normal people feel like failures. And when a system constantly tells you that you're doing fine, while your real life feels anything but fine, that creates confusion, frustration, and shame. So let's rewind and see how we got here. Back in the early 1960s, the US government wanted to define poverty. And this wasn't as simple as it sounds because poverty is subjective. One person's broke is another person's comfortable, so they needed something measurable, something objective, something consistent. And they landed on food. Because at the time, food was the largest and most predictable expense for families. Roughly 1/3 of a household's budget went toward feeding the family. So the logic was simple and elegant. Figure out the cheapest possible food budget for a family, then multiply that number by 3. That total represented the minimum income needed to survive. That became the poverty line. And here's the important part. For that era, this made sense. One income could support a family of 4. Housing was affordable. Healthcare costs were low and usually covered by employers. College didn't require lifelong debt. Wages rose alongside productivity and inflation. The formula matched reality, but then reality changed, and instead of updating the assumptions, the formula was frozen in time. Rather than asking, what does poverty mean today? The government simply said, let's keep the same model and adjust it for inflation. That's it. No new categories, no updated ratios, no accounting for modern life. And that decision quietly broke everything, because updating the formula properly would be politically explosive. If poverty were recalculated using modern spending patterns, housing, healthcare, childcare, transportation, millions of people would instantly fall below the line. That would mean expanded assistance programs, higher government spending, and an admission that the middle class is under serious pressure. So instead, the narrative stayed simple. Unemployment is low, inflation is cooling, poverty hasn't changed much, everything is fine. But let's look at what actually changed. In the 1960s, food was the biggest expense. Today, it's one of the smallest. In the 1960s, housing was affordable. Today, it consumes a third, sometimes half, of income. In the 1960s, healthcare was minor. Today, it's one of the fastest growing expenses and a leading cause of bankruptcy. In the 1960s, childcare wasn't a line item. Today, it costs as much as a full-time salary. In the 1960s, you didn't need a college degree to earn a middle-class living. Today, degrees are mandatory and financially crushing. Insurance costs exploded. Transportation became unavoidable. Taxes shifted upward for middle earners. Every major assumption flipped. And here's where the math starts to tell a very different story. The original formula relied on food being about 1/3 of spending. Today, food is closer to 6 or 7%. That means the old multiplier doesn't work anymore. And this is the part that sounds backwards at first. If food shrinks as a percentage of spending, the multiplier doesn't get smaller, it gets larger. Because food didn't get cheaper. Everything else got dramatically more expensive. Housing exploded, healthcare exploded, childcare exploded, insurance exploded. Food stayed relatively stable, which makes it look smaller. Now let's flip the logic and use a modern equivalent, rent. Today, rent takes up roughly 1/3 of income for many households, just like food did in the 1960s. So if you apply the same logic, you multiply rent by 3 to estimate the income needed just to survive without constantly falling behind. If your rent is $2,000 a month, That's $24,000 a year. Multiply that by 3 and you get $72,000. And that's before healthcare, food, transportation, or savings. Now, let's do it the blunt way by adding everything up: housing, healthcare premiums, and out-of-pocket costs, transportation, food, utilities, childcare if both parents work. Using conservative national averages, not New York or San Francisco, you're already approaching 6 figures in after-tax expenses. And that's the key detail most people miss. That number is net income. Once you add taxes back in, the gross income required jumps dramatically. Suddenly, you're looking at numbers between $120,000 and $140,000 just to cover the basics without debt. No luxury, no vacations, no expensive hobbies, just stability. And here's the most brutal part. The median household income in America is far below that, which explains why so many households rely on 2 incomes and still feel broke, because the second income often doesn't build wealth. It just pays for childcare. You're not climbing, you're running on a treadmill. And that's why so many people feel exhausted but stuck. Now, whenever this topic comes up, the same objections always appear. Some people say, I make less than that and I'm fine. Others say, just move somewhere cheaper. Others argue that certain costs shouldn't count, but none of those responses address the real issue. The baseline is wrong. And when the baseline is wrong, the messaging becomes harmful. You start thinking you're irresponsible, that you're bad with money, that everyone else figured something out that you didn't. But the truth is simpler and harder to accept. You're being measured against a system that no longer reflects real life. And here's where the conversation needs to shift, because this does not mean you're trapped. While you can't control housing markets, healthcare costs, inflation, or government formulas, you can control a few things that actually matter: your savings rate, your investing behavior, your patience, your ownership. Income helps you survive. Ownership is what builds freedom. A household earning modest income but investing consistently over decades can outperform a much higher earning household that never invests. Because wealth doesn't come from income alone, it comes from time and compounding. The poverty line measures survival, investing measures possibility, and that's the game most people were never taught to play. So here's what I want you to take away. If you feel like you're working harder than your parents, but getting nowhere, you're not imagining it. If you feel like your paycheck disappears instantly, you're not bad with money. If you feel like the rules don't work anymore, it's because they were written for a different world. The system changed, the formula didn't. And once you understand that, you can stop blaming yourself and start playing a different game. A game built on ownership, on patience, on compounding. $140,000 might feel like the new poor, but understanding why it feels that way is the first step toward making sure you don't stay stuck inside it.